There is blind justice, and then there is trading justice, so that you can finally afford to get that laser eye surgery. Not only will people find you more attractive once you ditch those old glasses, you'll be able to see your charts better. That's what we call win-win. Speaking of winning, it's time for a little trading justice. Brought to you by TackleTrading.com.
Welcome out to the Trading Justice Podcast presented by Tackle Trading. If you're looking to make a little money, get in the game, protect your investments, get over there to TackleTrading.com. Check out Gino Porter's scouting report on the options market, my Forex report, and just by way of the Forex report, guys, another killer week. And it's only been one day so far. So go out there, check out everything we're doing out in Tackle Trading and get in the game, change your life, change society, one trade at a time with TackleTrading.com. That is the introduction, and we have an amazing guest. Emily, Tim likes to say we have a special guest every time, and sometimes we mean it and other times not so much, but I do mean it 100%. You know, getting to know you as I have over the last 7, 8, 9 months, getting to know your background and whatnot, just an inspirational story, Emily. So welcome out to the podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. Thanks for having me.
Oh, anytime. Well, by way of introduction, you came from Kenya, and you've basically been in the Jersey area since the mid-1990s. Kind of talk to us a little bit about what brought you to the United States and especially New Jersey.
My parents, just one day out of the blue decided, hey, I think the States is a good place for us to go. And before we knew it, we were in an airplane, settled in Jersey where my dad's brother was. And then, about a couple of years later that we moved to Maryland. And that's where we've been ever since. So Maryland is my home, apart from Kenya, but Maryland is where I've been since the 90s. And, it's just been a wonderful experience being here. All families here, mom, dad, brother, sister. So we're all just loving it being in Maryland.
Awesome. And which was where I met you. I was presenting at a 3-day Rich Dad Legacy Education Basic Training. And, just getting to know you, even in that 3 days, your energy, your insight, your passion comes through, and it's absolutely amazing and intoxicating to a certain extent to see your energy. I don't know if you'll remember this, but I remember it was day 3, and you were moving forward with us, taking our classes and mentoring, and you and your partners were very emotional. And, I came up to you and said, hey, listen, we'll be with you every step of the way. And, you've watching your journey over the last 6, 7, 8 months and seeing the things you're doing. And like I said, it's really, really cool to see that from not only afar, but just to see your progress grow as an investor, as a trader, to now starting to, teach other women how to do the exact same thing. And I'm sure Tim will talk about that here in just one second. But before we get into the trading aspect of it, you've been an investor in the real estate market for years. What specifically, how did you get involved in real estate?
Well, my dad's, business-minded person, and he's always invested, here and back home in Kenya. So, I've grown up in that, business and entrepreneurship aspect. So it's always, I guess, it's been in my blood. And I've been in real estate, like I said, you said for 17 years. So, I was a property manager in the self-storage industry for about 17 years. But my husband and I also purchased some property and had some rental properties here and there. Of course, when the financial institutions had that downfall in 08, 09, we all took a hit. But it still hasn't deterred us from, trying to get back in there again. So it's just, that mindset of wanting to invest and wanting to, have businesses and all that good stuff. So that's how I kind of got started. I also have a real estate license in Maryland. So, help people with the purchase and selling of their homes. So it's just kind of been in my blood for a long time. My dad's been doing it for years back home, and it's kind of like been getting me going.
Well, I've always said to people who have been involved in real estate in the past that the stock market and the options market is not that different from the real estate market. And what I mean by that is the same strategies that you do in real estate, we do in stock. Like when you buy a property, you rent it out, or a commercial building, you rent it out, Well, we do the same thing. We just buy a stock, we rent it out. And once you can understand the commonalities between the two markets, it really is kind of an easy transition into that. Not that it doesn't take time, but let's talk quickly about your transition into as a trader, as an investor. When you decided to move forward back when we were in DC together, what was it about that moment, those 3 days, that you decided, you know what, this is something I want, this is something I need?
It's funny because we had initially started the 3-day training for the real estate with Rich Dad, and then when we did the stock portion of it, the stock somehow seemed easier. And, like you said, the terminology is, it's different, but it's really the same thing as far as investing stocks in real estate. And you actually did like an example or comparison between, renting properties and covered calls, and how it was both the same thing. And for me, it just made sense, and it just, felt a lot easier to do it in investing in stocks rather than doing it in real estate. It's still my passion to do real estate, but, for the meantime, the stocks, really caught me, and, I haven't let go ever since. So it was just a matter of, at where I was and where I am in my life right now, which one was going to be easier for me, and stocks just won that battle. But they're really both the same.
I got to tell you something about Emily, just listening to this. Knowing how complex all of her different setups are with how many portfolios she has, she needed to do stocks first. She had to get all that figured out.
Honestly, it's true. It's true. She had to get it all figured out, but at the same time, I think everybody should do stock first. And it's not that real estate's not good. Real estate's fantastic. Real estate's great. It's just that real estate's more longer term, stock's more shorter term. You can start developing cash flow in the stock market to use as a real estate investor. And honestly, Tim, I've been a speaker for Rich Dad Legacy for going on 3 years now. And typically we follow real estate, and I can't tell you how many times I've met people just like Emily who basically stated, you know what, I love real estate, I'm going to do real estate, but I'm going to do stock first. Because of the speed, and because everybody, even if you've never invested personally yourself, invested in the stock market, everybody does, whether it's through a 401k or an IRA, or they're already investing in the stock market versus, I know Emily was investing in real estate before this, but many of the people who start learning real estate investing and whatnot, they're just really, really, really new to it. They've never done it. But in the stock market, these people already invest in stock, and just in terms of Emily joining 7, 8, 9 months ago, now to see the market going down and putting herself in a position to succeed, and regardless of what the market does, that's pretty powerful. And it doesn't mean she's never going to do real estate. She's going to do real estate her whole life. You just heard it from her. It's her passion, it's her love. She's done it for 17 years. It's just that everybody already invests in the stock market. It's just you have to learn how to do it the appropriate way.
I agree. And Emily, maybe one thing you can talk about, and by the way, guys, I'm in and out right now, so I'll be here for a few minutes, and I've probably got to bounce early on this interview. I'm so excited to have Emily here, Matt. One thing I want to make sure you talk to her about is the women in trading idea that we'll get into, and maybe towards the end of the conversation.
Well, let's talk about a couple things. Let's talk about just kind of her experiences with Legacy, or experiences with tackle trading, and then we can talk about the women's initiative that she has going on. But Tim, I believe both of us have an out here in about 7 or 8 minutes. So, Emily, in terms of your experiences with the classes, just talk to the people briefly about your personal experiences with going to Master Trader, going to Options 1, Options 2, those types of classes.
Well, like you said, when we met, when you came out in D.C., I guess now 8, 9 months ago, we decided to move forward. And, at first it was scary. It was, a bag of mixed emotions. I didn't know whether I had made the right decision or not. And it was very, very scary at first. And you're investing all this money into this education, and you're wondering if you're going to get it right, if you're going to understand all the terminology. All that stuff was just, rolling through my mind. And the first thing I needed to do first was establish my business, because you taught us from day one that trading is not a hobby, it's a business. So I had to make sure that I had the business part of it set up correctly. So that took a couple of months before I could even start. So I was paper trading for, some months and just, being in the labs and taking, being on top of trading and using Gino's options report to, place the trade. So I was still paper trading it until all the businesses were established. And then once those got established, we started to trade that. But it's been phenomenal. It's the best decision I think I've made in a very, very long time as far as education and where to, how to invest your money to, to get the payout from it. So it's been wonderful. The online classes, with Master Trader, and we've done options. I still have one more class I need to take. But it's been wonderful. The instructors are great. You learn a lot. It's, it's intimidating. It's hard, but you have to keep at it. You have to spend, some time at it. It's not something that you just, look at one day a week and put it away. And you have to be in it every day, know the markets, know the trend. Just really be involved. If you really are committed to doing this, you have to be involved. It's not a hobby. It's a business. So as long as you have that mindset in you that it's not a hobby, it's a business, and you have to be in it every single day, then, I think you'll do well, and that's what I've been trying to do. I'm not where I need to be, but at least I'm not where I was, 6, 7, 8 months ago when, I had no idea what a covered call was, or an iron condor, or a vertical, or a bull put, or this and that, and now it's like, I can't believe I'm saying these things and it actually makes sense. When you were saying them in that 3-day training, I was I was lost. But now they all make sense. So it's just an amazing journey, and I'm just thankful that, the timing was right for you guys to be out in D.C. at that time and for us to make the decision to move forward. It's just been a wonderful experience so far.
Awesome. And coming into your mentorship, you mentored with Tim just a few weeks ago, and you came out here to the amazing Salt Lake City area. I've seen some of your pictures on Facebook. And you spent 3 days with Tim designing your portfolio and, working on putting rules in place and a trading plan in place. Talk about what your experience specifically with Tim.
Well, after being stuck at BWI Airport for about 9 hours, I never thought we would get to see Tim. But finally we did get out of there, and we did make it out to Utah and see Tim. And it was an amazing experience. I wish we had more days and more time with Tim, because he really sits down with you, and then, you look at your portfolios, and, he works it out for you, and he, draws it all out and tells you, this is where you need to be here, this is where you need to be there, pumps the brakes a little bit, because he did tell me that I was too aggressive in some positions. So I've learned, directional, when to be in directional plays, and when to, cash flow and be in theta and collect your premium, whether it's weekly or monthly or whatever. So it's now we've come back, and now we're applying all those things that we learned, because before we were kind of doing it but not really knowing whether we're doing it right. But when you sit with the mentor and they're looking at your live account, and, you're looking at, you've got IRAs here, or you've got, a margin account there, or whatever it is, they'll build it out for you, and they'll, it was just amazing. And I'm just thankful that, we had Tim out there with us to just kind of like, really draw it out and see the big picture rather than just see the now. You're also doing the now, but you're also looking at big picture and looking ahead. And it just brought it all back full circle. And now we're just focused on, getting that theta in and getting that cash flow. But at the same time, you want to manage and grow your portfolios as well. So it's just been wonderful.
Get that cash flow. That's right.
I'm getting it, Tim. Thanks.
And we're missing her partner in crime, by the way, Matt. Rosemary was here with her as well.
Rosemary is amazing, and
we're missing Rosemary. So a big shout out to Rosemary right now. She should have loved to be here with us, but she wasn't available. So we'll have to get on next time.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to do one, especially with you and Rosemary getting into that women's initiative that you got going on. And speak to that real quickly. Now that you're kind of going through the classes, learning how to trade, you've mentored with Tim, you've designed your portfolio, get that theta, as you say. I know it's very important for you to spread this word, the good word of investing around, and especially to women, who, by the way, are historically better traders and investors than men are. So in that capacity, what do you have going on with your women's initiatives?
Well, so, we were sitting and we were thinking, like, Rosemary and I were sitting and we were going, man, this stuff it's important that people know about this stuff because, we all came from that consumer environment where you're told, okay, put your money in your 401k, pick a bunch of, mutual funds or whatever and diversify it to whatever age you're going to retire and let it sit there, and no matter what happens to the market, you'll get it when you retire. And when, we took that 3-day class with you and, we saw the other side of it, we said to ourselves, man, we got to let people know about this. And, even though we're still learning right now, it's important that we let people know and understand how the financial markets work because it's their money. It's our money. We work so hard for it. And to build up your portfolio and then you get to retirement age and you have next to nothing left, it's devastating. And people should be aware and take control of their future and their financial future and just really, 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 understand it. So we thought about waiting until later once we had finished, the whole mentoring and the training and all that stuff to get started. But we feel, especially now with the market the way it is, people have to know about this now. We can't wait. So as we're learning, we also want to bring more people into the journey, whether it's women or men or whomever. Our passion was with women, of course, because we are women, but we also want the guys in there to understand because it's important for everybody to know.
And in terms of, I love that mindset as well. But in terms of that, specifically, how because we want to be a part of this, in this women's initiative because we find it is so important to get this out to everybody, especially women. Because when you look at the demographics, Emily, women, number one, we have made strides in society to a certain extent in making women's pay equal with that of men for doing the same things, but we're still not there. They're only making 70 cents on the dollar for their male counterparts who are doing the exact same thing. And so even though we've made strides, we have not done enough. Also, as women are getting into the workforce and as women are, basically getting into the age of retirement, it's more important for women to learn how to cash flow. It's more important for women to learn how to invest because women are going to live a lot longer than men after they retire. And so understanding the process of covered calls and naked puts and credit spreads and still being able to get out there and utilize cash flow strategies can fund their retirement, which they're going to need a lot longer than their male counterparts are because women live about 7, 8, 9 years longer typically than men do, which means they're going to have about 18 years of traditional retirement. That's traditional retirement to get out there and teach women how to do this who are historically a better investor with a better mindset to do it is powerful. And so if there's anything we can do to help your journey in terms of this women's initiative, we're right there alongside you.
So Rosemary, and I were sitting here and we were thinking of, what we can do. So we thought about having this women in trading portion, part of tackle trading and try to, engage women and educate them and when you see other people doing it and you realize it's not as intimidating as it is and it's not as scary as it is, you're more inclined to, to kind of join in. And when you have people that support you, it takes that weight off of you because you're not doing it alone. So, if we can get as many women as we can to help grow, to help grow together and learn because we're still new at this. So we're looking for other women that are experienced in trading that can also kind of take our hand and tell us, hey, this is where we are, this is where we started, and just kind of like, do it all together. I believe in doing something together as in trying to do it by yourself and failing. You'd rather be with, a group of people where you can get support, you can get encouragement, and it's just, and you're having fun while doing it. So we're really looking forward to this women in trading.
One thing that you can do, guys, out there, if you're a Tackle Trading member, go into the clubhouse, and there's a pinned thread called Women in Trading. And I think Emily might even expand that into like some kind of user group or a Google group. We might even create a Facebook page. But we're going to grow that, Matt, and we are going to make it so that women can connect with each other that want to. And like Emily said, the men can come in and scrounge off their ideas if they're nice. But we really want to promote this. Matt, you have daughters, I have daughters. We're also both very self-aware of the need for education for everybody out there. And so I really love this idea. I want to see it grow. If you're out there, if you're a female trader, or if you just know somebody who could use a good network, make sure that they are connecting with Emily and Rosemary, who are going to lead and start this group. We're going to grow it really strong, Emily. I know it.
Oh, with the passion that Emily and Rosemary bring to the table and their dedication, work ethic, it's going to be absolutely amazing.
Well, we wouldn't be able to do it without you guys. It all goes back to you guys, because you guys, you've taught us what we know so far. So it's I don't even know how to even begin to think. If I think about it, I'll start crying. So it's just really due to you guys, and just how much you've really educated us in financial
Too early in the
education,
morning.
and we're just ever thankful.
Way too early in the morning for tears. Laughter, my friend. Laughter.
I know.
Well, thanks for being here, Emily.
Awesome. Well, Emily, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast. Much appreciated. Once we get that women's initiative up and running smoothly and big time, we'll bring you and Rosemary on for another extended version of the podcast. You guys have been listening to the Trade Justice Podcast. We'll be back shortly with another segment to follow up, and we'll see you in a little bit. Thanks, Emily, so much. Welcome back to the Trading Justice Podcast presented by Tackle Trading. Tim, we just had an interview with your mentor student, Emily, and what an amazing person. To see kind of, her start. I met Emily back about 7-8 months ago in Washington, D.C., taught her my 3-day basic, taught her in my master trader class, and then you mentored her, so both of us know Emily and Rosemary very, very, very well. But I want to get your reaction to just the interview with Emily.
Sure. Well, the first thing I would tell you is Emily's full of personality. The second there's no doubt about it. And her partner in crime, which we didn't get on this podcast, but I want to in the future, Rosemary, equal
They're
personality.
twins.
They are perfect complements to
twins.
each other.
They don't have a negative bone in their body, and they see everything in terms of positive light and change, and they're literally, it's intoxicating, their energy. It's really, really cool.
They're the reason I mentor, Matt. These kind of people, quick, smart, open-minded, wanting to learn, wanting to educate, wanting to give back, needing the help so that they're in more control. I mean, they are exactly what it is to be in this process, this growth process of starting as a student, recognizing that you need education, that you want to be an entrepreneur, that you want to do something great with your time and your money and your choices. And I love the interview. I love listening to Emily there, and Emily talk about her journey and her process. But I also love her why. Part of the why is to make money. I don't think Emily would disagree with that. We all need money. We like money. We want money. Yeah.
We're all greedy people.
But a big part of her why is control. She has a lot of different things going on. I was teasing her. As a mentor, I've had hundreds and hundreds of students in my office, mentored or taught thousands of students in class environments. But I don't know if I've ever had anybody have so many different accounts. This and that and the other thing. I mean, Matt, I swear I was drawing it up on the board. It looked like, one of those algorithms that a mathematician is drawing out. It was pretty convoluted, but she knew what she was in, which was impressive. And then it's all about just getting control of each one and coming up with a plan. But I enjoyed the interview. What was your takeaway? What was one thing that stood out to you?
A lot stood out to me. But I'll tell you one thing that I just keep getting back to. When Emily and Rosemary moved forward in D.C., they were very, very brand new, and I don't even know if they'll even admit this, but they were really scared. And I remember just sitting out there in the hallway at the table, just talking to them and just reassuring them that, we're going to be there for you. We're going to be there for you. Me, Tim, Gino, Keith King, and every other mentor. We're going to be there. We're going to be there. We're going to help you along the way. And to see her growth her and Rosemary's growth over the last 6, 7, 8 months has been awesome. But the positivity and a dollar doesn't buy a Snickers. You have to put in the work. And that's the thing that I've always known about those two, is that, they are two of the most positive people I've ever met out there. But they've put the work in, Tim. They work their asses off. And maybe this comes from their background their upbringing, not living in the United States their entire lives, but coming over here when they did. Sometimes, Tim, and I'm not going to get too deep with this, but sometimes we here that have been, raised in the U.S. for our entire lives, we get complacent. We get a little lazy. We take for granted that all of the freedoms, the economic, the financial, the personal freedoms we have in the U.S. that other countries don't necessarily share. And when you have people come over here, they really embrace that. They work their ass off. They work multiple jobs. They send money back home. They're just hardworking people. And you put in a person like Emily and Rosemary, who have such strong work ethic with such a amazing mindset, and you actually give them a system and a path, they're going to take that and they're going to run with it. And I'm sure we'll have both of them on the podcast, and they're over there. We're going to start a women's initiative program over there at Tackle, starring Emily and Rosemary and Time and everything else they're doing. And that's all them. That's not us, Tim. They're the ones that are doing it already. We just want to kind of expand on it. But that was my takeaway, just hearing her growth, her mindset, coupled with the hard work. It's like so many times we run into certain people that want everything right then. They want to master trading in 3 days. And if you can't teach them how to master trading in 3 days, then they're just not going to do it. Or when they start seeing the opportunity, but they get scared and they let fear couple them and they're not going to do it. Or they get whatever, or they get into it and they start doing it, but they get overwhelmed and they just give up. And it just brings me back to so many books I've read, The Richest Man in Babylon, Think and Grow Rich, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Cash Flow Quadrant. These people who, have reached their highest financial goals, their highest personal goals, achieved their ultimate financial success. It's riddled with failure along the way. It's riddled with fear along the way. It's riddled with unknowing and still moving forward in the depths of darkness and hell and fire and whatnot. These people like Emily, who is on the path, but they don't let anything stop them. They don't let terminology, they don't let fear, they don't let money, they don't let time, they don't let these excuses that like a lot of other people use. They don't let that stop them. And that's amazing. And that's the type of people we want to work with. That's the type of people we want Tackle to be a part of, that we want Legacy to be a part of. We want Rich Dad Education to be a part of. And, as we're, obviously Tackle Training, but we were born and raised in Legacy Education. We were born and raised in Rich Dad. We're speakers for Rich Dad. We're trainers for Rich Dad. We're mentors for Legacy and Rich Dad. We've been a part of that for 10 years, and you know what? We'll always be a part of that because of the love and gratitude we have for what they have provided us. And we're just trying to make sure that everything we're doing right now, and the hard work we're putting in, is for people like Emily and Rosemary coming through that same thing that we once came through, that they have all the tools, all the contact, all the everything they need to be successful. They just need to put the hard work in, and that's what Emily and Rosemary
absolutely 100%. And I'll tell you, it is the difference between somebody who starts with the why instead of just the what or the how. And it goes back to that video I put on Tackle Trading. I mean, people that come into my office,
great
video, I appreciate that. I thought it was, it's what I think about a lot. Analytical types and drivers, they want to come into your office, they just want to learn the rules step by step by step by step. They think, well, I've already got my why. Thanks for the pep talk, coach, kind of thing. But the reality is, I've seen this.
How many analytical people, pure analytical people, do you know have ever achieved their truest financial success?
Ooh, that actually can hit the potential they had if they could get away from the steps?
I'm not saying find success.
Yeah.
Okay, because you can find success in many different ways.
Yeah.
You can find great success in working a job and having a career. You can find great success as a self-employed business owner. You can find great success as an investor, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner. I'm talking about their truest, their ultimate financial success, to the point where they never have to worry about money in any capacity again. I don't think the pure analytical mindset can do that. I
I
think
think
you
you got
have
to
to
have a
have the
blend,
proper
don't you?
mindset.
Yeah.
You have to have the proper mindset. And when I'm out there teaching a 3-day basic training, Tim, and you have 5 or 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 15 analytical people in the crowd, they just want the content, content, content. But the thing that they don't realize is that if you just taught for 3 days, just pure rules, strategies, techniques, management techniques, you know what they will get? Nothing. Nothing.
They
It
won't get
will
anything out of
overwhelm
it.
them. It will
Yeah.
overwhelm to the point where they have paralysis, where they will
I
never
agree
do
with
anything.
that. I agree with that, but I do think that it's also true that the teacher has to remember that at some point you have to have
Oh, of course,
depth of content.
100%. You know,
You have to get to the content at some point, and you have to be able to
and Tim, I'm
deliver it
not
in a
saying
very
we
clear
don't do
way.
that.
But you're right, though.
You
If you
know,
forget the
I'm not saying you don't do
right,
that or I don't do
right,
that, because
right,
I don't think there's ever been a trainer that goes into more content than we do at a 3-day basic training. It's how we teach it though, and it's
right.
because you can
I agree.
teach very, very advanced content in a very simple way, where people can really grasp it. And I'm not saying the analyticals can't be great traders. They are inherently great traders. They are inherently designed to be great traders. Okay, they're great technicians. They're great traders. It's just that you have to hone their skills. You have to put them on a path and give them a plan. And you just can't do that in 3 days. You have to be able to shape them to a certain extent. Because what the analytical driver will do is
Mhm.
they will try to take it to a depth that is not needed. They will analyze and analyze and analyze, and by the time they're done analyzing, the movement's already done. They're
Yeah. I call it the stars
yeah,
and
I
moon
like that.
fallacy, by
I
the
like
way.
that.
If you have to wait until all of the moons and all of the stars line up before you make a decision,
You're
then
you're
you
never you're
failed
never making a
yourself.
trade.
There's this exercise I do in mentoring, Matt, where we go through and we find like credit spreads. And then up on my big whiteboard, we'll put all the symbols that we just did our research on our spreadsheet, and I'll make them grade them, and we'll grade the chart, and then we'll grade the credit, and then we'll grade the risk. And after looking at all of the components, I'm like, do you see anything up here that says A plus, A plus, A plus? And they'll usually say no. And I'll say, well, but yet we're still going to make a trade, right? We're still going to choose at least one of these that are all of these symbols up on the board. And it's the whole point of that is to remind them it doesn't have to be a textbook example for you to be able to pull the
Yeah.
trigger. In trading at some level, you have to simply make a decision. There are gray areas in life, and if you have context and you have experience and you also have some structure, you can take that B plus trade.
No, I
Yeah.
agree, and I don't think there's ever been an A plus trade in the history of mankind. There's too many variables that can happen. You can talk about the probabilities all day long, but there's always a situation where something can go against you, and it's how you respond to that. It's how you respond to the current price action, the current information that can separate a good trader from a great trader, or a bad trader from a good trader.
Mhm.
It's system, it's mindset, it's rules, it's structure, it's discipline, and that's what you do in mentoring. It's an amazing journey, and that's what I've always said to people is that trading is an amazing, amazing journey. It's not a sprint. It's you can in a short time period you can start to see opportunity. You can start to understand, but you can't master something. That takes time. That's all it takes is time. It goes back to what Richard Dennis said, Tim. And Richard Dennis was the man who started the turtle traders in the early 1980s, and he basically broke the model of Wall Street that said you needed Wall Street, you had to have Wall Street, you had to be a part of Wall Street to be a trader, to be a proper investor. And he basically said, no, you don't. You all you need is system. You need team. You need system. And he said teaching people how to trade was the easiest thing he's ever done. He said it was even though he's the only one who believed in it at the time, it was teachable beyond his wildest imaginations. And that story of Richard Dennis is true. Trading is not hard. It's not. It's just clicking buttons. You just need to know when to click the button. When to get in, when to get out, and that's just system. That's trading system. That's team. That's what That's why we're a part of Legacy. That's why we're a part of Tackle. Is because that system and that community, teaching a trading system through Master Trader and Options 1 and Options 2, and the mentoring through Legacy Education and Rich Dad, teaching people all those systems and those rules, and then with Tackle Trading, having the community of like-minded individuals who are all part of the same system, to be able to go out there and get the help and the aid and the advice that you need as a new trader, or you know what, as a veteran trader, is in my estimation invaluable.
Mm-hmm. And it does bring me back to thinking about Emily's journey and where she's at in that, because you can learn systems and you can learn how to do it and you can learn structure, but sometimes people get disinterested, Matt. But if you have that passion and the reason that you're there in the first place is because you have a strong why and you have strong motivation to change your life, and you're reminded of that every day, and you want to control and you want to profit and you want to get, those things also will keep you moving along. Because I've known some really smart traders that came into my office and I knew they could be great at it, but they just wanted the money and they didn't really have the passion. And I'm not talking about passion for candlesticks. I'm talking about passion for changing the situation that you're in. It's one of those deals. I think you've got to have a little bit of both.
I agree. If money is your sole motivation, then I don't think you're ever going to find your truest self. I really don't. If money is the sole motivation, there has to be, and that goes back to your video you did on the why. What is your why? Start with why. Why are you here? Why are you doing this? What is the motivating factor behind why you're doing this? It's when we moved forward in 2005, it was you moved forward a little slightly before I did, but I came in very close after you, and we started going through the system together, started learning together, started applying together. I don't think we knew our why at the time. We were young kids. I was 27, you were 25. I think we were motivated by two things, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. Number one, money, and number two, not having to get a job. Not doing what we saw our father do for 30, 40 years and working his ass off, and a great man, a great father, but truly working 60, 70 hours a week, basically for ends meet. And I don't know what our why was at the time, because I don't think we had the proper context in mind in that capacity. But I will say this, and I haven't really talked about this on the podcast, Tim, but in 2010 when I was director of Rich Dad, we were creating the trading system. We were basically spent a year and a half, 2 years developing everything that we were doing. And we were basically working our asses off to create this amazing thing. I was putting in more hours than I could count, more hours than I even knew. Not only going into board meetings and corporate events, and sitting in on discussions and conference calls and video conference calls, and doing all these meetings with all these different mentors, trying to figure everything out, trying to being the puppet master, trying to pull everything together. You lose a little focus when you're doing that about what is your why. But in July of 2010, I had some unfortunate things happen to my little baby girl, and she started having some health problems, and where she would need constant supervision. I'm talking constant supervision, where we would have the ambulance at the house and having to give her mouth to mouth, and basically just begging her to take a breath. And she was 8 months old at the time, and we didn't know at that time what happened, but eventually she had basically passed out. My wife, who is an amazing person, gave her mouth to mouth, finally brought her back, and she was out 2.5, 3 minutes. And she started simulating this over the next 2 years whenever she would get hurt. And there's me having a job, having to go into work, and having the risk of this happening to my daughter and not being around. It was unbearable. And I finally, 2 weeks after the initial incident, and basically a day after the second incident, I resigned from Rich Dad and moved my family back down to Huntington, Utah, where they could have the emotional support of her family and my family down there. And that's a place I never wanted to step foot in again, but that's what my family needed at the time. And I didn't like I go back to 2005. I didn't know my why, but after that event happened, I did. I knew why I did that, so that I could have the freedom that I needed to pick up my family if they needed and give them the support financially and emotionally. I couldn't have done that, Tim, if it wasn't for Legacy and Rich Dad. I couldn't have done that if it wasn't for a decision that we made in 2005 to control our financial future. And the one thing that I keep going back, because that obviously brought me back to my why, and my why has and always will be my children and my amazing wife. And having the ability to give them the lives that they deserve and take care of them when they needed it the most from an emotional health perspective, it was powerful to me and brought me back again to that why. But the reality is that money was right now and in the future will never be the motivating factor, because money is just money. It's a fiat currency, and you can make it anywhere. You can do it in any capacity. What the reality is, do you have, and this is kind of my why and why I go out there now, because I'm so eternally grateful for my mentors, my trainers, the people who drove me. Do you have the ability from a knowledge perspective, not from a financial perspective, because you can make money anywhere? Do you have the ability from a knowledge perspective to be able to take care of anything you need to take care of in the future? Because the one thing we do not know, Tim, is what happens in the future. We know what's happening right now. And if you don't have the ability to take care of the things that you need to take care of as a father, as a mother, to protect your family in any capacity, financially, emotionally, from a health perspective, then you need to put yourself in a better position so you can in the future. I didn't know that in 05. I knew that in 2010. And that's why, one of the reasons why I do what I do and traveling the way I do now is, number one, my daughter is doing amazing. She's the George Soros of trading, we've called her. But she hasn't had a spell in close to, 3 years now. We haven't had the ambulance called in close to 3 years. She hasn't passed out in close to 3 years. It seems like she's completely 100% over it. But I do believe that some of that is due to the fact that she had that constant care for the 2 years after I resigned from Rich Dad of my wife, number one, and me, number two. And that to me will always drive me now to get out there and give people a chance. And that's what Robert Kiyosaki is really driven in me from a mindset perspective is, people need aid, people need community, people need support. And those of us who have been granted and given the knowledge to be able to do that, we have a responsibility to help people out. We have a responsibility to, and I'm not saying give them money. I'm saying teach them, give them knowledge, because knowledge is much, much more valuable and much, much more powerful than money ever will be, ever will be. And it's just, going back to, and, Tim, when I was watching your video, honestly, a tear, I was in tears, because it brought me back to, those moments in time where they literally were some of the most painful, some of the most scary moments I've ever had in my life. And, I just thank God every day that in 2005 that I received that phone call from you saying, you know what, get up here. I want you to meet this guy.
Yeah.
I want you to see that. And I'm thankful for you. I'm thankful for the mentors. I'm thankful for the trainers. I'm thankful for Robert Kiyosaki. I'm thankful for all those people that drove us to achieve what we have achieved, and to the point where, now we can give back. We can give back in our 3-day trainings for Rich Dad. We can give back through tackle trading. We can give back and and be the change in society that we crave and that we want and that we need from a societal perspective.
Well, it's interesting, this whole thing, because I got to tell you, you can't stop thinking about your why.
No.
I mean, guys, one thing that I would impress on everybody out there listening is that, Matt's been trading and doing all this stuff. We're talking about 10 years ago that he started this journey, and 5 years ago that he made a big dramatic change in his life. But every day, Matt, you are reminded by yourself that these are my motivations.
Yeah.
I would challenge any human being to be present, to be there in the moments that you're in. If you're a teacher and you're teaching a class, give everything you have to that class. If you're a trader and you're trying to learn a strategy, well, turn off Facebook and focus on what you're being trained on.
Turn off your phone.
You're going to be a lot more successful at it.
Seriously, turn off your phone.
Yeah, be present. Have a conversation. Absolutely.
I cannot tell you how many times I've been teaching a basic training, Tim, where I'm going through teaching somebody a concept or a strategy, and I see them pick up the phone and answer an email or get on Facebook or Twitter, and then they come up to me on the break and say, well, I don't understand this. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, well, maybe if you turned off your damn phone for 2 seconds, you might have gotten what I was trying to teach you, and whatnot. It's just, you got to shut down everything else sometimes and focus, and that's what Emily and Rosemary are doing. That's what, all of our other mentor students are doing. And, it's sometimes it can be the simple things that you do that put you in a better position than somebody else. But at the end of the day, Tim, I go back to what Mark Cuban said in terms of reaching ultimate success and maintaining that ultimate success is you have to treat every day like somebody's trying to take everything away from you. Because the reality, Tim, is somebody is. And if you're not willing to put the time in on a daily basis to put yourself on a better path to succeed, then you know what? There's somebody else out there that is.
Sure. Yeah, and this is where you and I agree, and some people out there are going to have a different opinion. Some people's why is so that they can just be able to lay around on a beach, toes in the sand all the time, drinking a boat drink. I enjoy work when it's my intellectual property. I mean, Me personally, I like working hard for stuff. I like creating, I like teaching, I like trading, I like building businesses. I think there's a reason why you see great entrepreneurs. This is always something I have been very impressed with. Some of the greatest entrepreneurial leaders out there. The second they have success, they don't stop. You think of people like Louis Von Ahn, and he was the guy who created the CAPTCHA codes, right? And I think that's his name. I heard a podcast from him recently. And this guy, he created CAPTCHA codes, made a lot of money. He retired. 2 days later, he came out of retirement, Matt, and he was doing this interview. He's like, well, what am I going to do with my time? I'm like 40 years old, So he just started doing something else, and it happened to be a charity thing. And he's working on collaboration projects. Did you know, by the way, do you know what CAPTCHA codes are?
Yeah, what are they?
Like when you're in a website and you're trying to post a comment, and then it asks you to interpret or log into something, and it says, hey, you should read this at the bottom, and you have to put in L7, and then there's a word there.
Mm-hmm.
CAPTCHA codes are the security thing you have to enter, right? Well, Louis Von Ahn, he actually created these CAPTCHA codes. Did you know that every time you enter one of those little picture passwords to confirm that you're human and not a robot, you're actually interpreting an old book into a digital format?
I did not know that.
It's really cool. So I was listening to this. He did a TED Talk, I think, or something, and he was doing an interview, and he's like, I thought to myself, I just created something that makes the world waste hundreds of millions of hours, because now everybody's got to type in these little passwords, right? So why don't we turn that into something good and interpret old books that computers can't do? Because some old books are written in a way that you need a human eye to see it, right? And so that's what CAPTCHA codes are. Kind of an aside, but it's kind of interesting to me. But that's his why. See, here's a person that could easily have just been done with working, but he people don't have to be like that. You know, people that do great things, they're driven and they're motivated by something deeper, in my opinion. I've seen it too many times.
Something bigger than
Yeah.
themselves. That's what and whatever that is. I mean, and even sometimes when you start putting in the work and the idea and all of that jazz, you don't even know what that something bigger is. You're working for something bigger than who you are and what you're trying to accomplish at the time, and you don't know eventually what it's going to turn into. You know, when I go into every 3-day training, Tim, with the same mindset. There is somebody in this room that is going to achieve greatness. And I'm not talking about financial greatness, because there's going to be multiple people in that room that achieve financial greatness. I'm talking about greatness from a societal perspective, because you never know who you reach and who you touch, who they're going to reach and who they're going to touch. And you know, if you want to see society change, you got to be willing to go out there and push the envelope and start working hard and whatnot, because you can never change society by yourself. You need a team, you need a community, and you know, it's an amazing feeling when you start thinking about it like that.
Well, and the last thing I'll say is, you know, you don't have to have the same why today that you may have in 5 years. My why has evolved and changed and adapted. I think being a human being, and more experiences you get and the different relationships you have and successes and failures and challenges and struggle and whatever it is, I mean, that may evolve and it may change. But I think that to be conscious of it and to think about it and have conversations about it and to develop relationships with mentors and trusted people that can help you achieve it, that really is the mark of the kind of person I want on my team, Matt. You know, just to be there, be present, absolutely, be driven.
Well, quite frankly, people like Emily and Rosemary.
Yep.
You know, people like Rosemary and Emily who are putting in the time, putting in the effort, have a great mindset, willing to work hard. You know, they're going to achieve great things. And I'm not even just talking about trading. I'm talking about in life, as an entrepreneur, as a person. They're going to achieve absolutely amazing, great things because, number one, they know their why. Number two, they decided to invest in themselves. Number three, they're putting in the work. And number four, they've surrounded themselves with other people who are willing to drive them and push them and hold them accountable. And that's an amazing thing.
Yeah. Well, let's wrap this one. I gotta do some stuff here, you know, with the market actually. Man, podcasting during market days, markets are moving on me now. I do want to tell you, the one thing you said earlier about 50 cents or $1 won't buy you a Snickers. It reminded me of a quote Dad told me one time when I was not doing the things I needed to do in my life. He said, "Kid, 50 cents and all the potential in the world will buy you a Coke. So get to work."
That is our old man right there. Truly, that is our old man in a nutshell right there. Get to work. It goes back, and you know where he got it from? His mother.
Grandma.
Our grandmother, Grandma Esther Justice, getting out there when we were being raised, getting out there on the garden, and our garden was fairly large. And we would have to go out there when we were really young, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. And I remember always asking Grandma, "Hey, Grandma, what time is it? What time is it? What time is it?" This is a 75-year-old woman, right, working her ass off. And she says, "Matt, it's weed pulling time." I'll always remember that till the day I die. It's weed pulling time. So, okay. Thank you, Grandma. And then she would hit me with a rake and yell at me because of you.
About Grandma.
Oh,
we should do an entire podcast telling stories about Grandma. I would love that.
Dude, we should. We should. This is one of the hardest working.
We should bring in the heavy hitters.
Women.
We should bring in Mark.
Oh, Lord.
Mikey, Chris. We should bring in the whole family. Interview them one at a time. Tell us a story about Grandma.
I'm perfectly okay with doing that because she was one of the hardest working people I've ever known, even into her until she broke her hip in her late 70s, early 80s. And she was also one of the most disciplinarian people I've ever met. We have some very, very funny stories about old Grandma Esther. And I don't think that podcast would be too favorable to you, my good friend and brother.
Oh, I'm okay. Believe me, I learned self-deprecating humor from a young age. You got to laugh it off, or else if you take yourself too seriously and you can't take a couple of jabs at you, man, you're gonna have real stress in your life. I got to tell you. Yeah.
Well, I got you. We can end on this. I just made a futures trade. Okay, on the S&P on the downside, I have trailed my stop loss to break even, and I'm gonna go make me some lunch while I either make a lot of money or get stopped out at break even. That's why we trade.
Beautiful moment. We got to come up with a phrase for that moment where you get a trail stop to break even. It's like that.
What should that be?
Yeah, when you can. Yeah, the trader's exhale. You know, you're holding your breath, and then you just like, you find your happy place. That's what it is. We're gonna call it happy.
Once it moves in your direction, you're like, yeah, that's good. So now I'm going to trail it again for a profit, and then I'm going to go make lunch. That's what scalping futures is all about. But I'll end on this, Tim. I'll end on this. I'm not even going to say free Tom Brady. I'm going to say thank God Tom Brady is free. Roger Goodell can suck it. Good on you for the NFL. Enjoy that egg on your face, and enjoy Tom Brady kicking some ass this year. And I say that as a Miami Dolphin fan. I hate the New England Patriots. I can't stand Bill Belichick. He's an asshole and the devil. But you know what? I support greatness, and I can't stand tyrants like Roger Goodell imposing his own brand of justice on Tom Brady and just making up stuff as he goes. So good for the NFL today for the egg on their face. And good for Tom Brady for fighting the NFL. And this goes to everybody else. When you guys see wrong in society, don't give up. You keep fighting, whatever the cost. Good for Tom Brady.
We got to do the NFL podcast next week for Game 1, so let's plan on that.
We do have the NFL podcast next week on predictions. I still remember when you predicted that the Baltimore Ravens would take that the Baltimore Ravens would take 2 playoff spots from last year's podcast when you said that they would also win the division and take the wild card. That was epic, Tim. That was epic. We'll do the NFL podcast next week, and we might even just do a Dean Beckett special fantasy football NFL podcast as well, and maybe we can make it a kind of a stock, fantasy podcast. What would be your first round draft pick in the stock? That's going to be awesome. Let's do a stock fantasy podcast as well, Tim, next week. Let's do the NFL one on Sunday. Let's do the fantasy one coming in next week. But instead of fantasy football, we're going to do a 10-round fantasy stock long-term investor podcast. How's that sound?
Sounds good to me.
All right, let's do it, Phil. Let's plan those 2 podcasts, Phil.
And Matt.
And we're out.
You want to do a drop out?
You want me to drop us out?
We're out.
You drop us out.
All right. Later. Let's do this. Let's do this up like real old school style.
Right.
Let's make sure that we got the pizzazz going in the dropout. All right, guys, for the Trading Justice podcast, you've been listening to Matt and Tim, and we've been talking about the journey of Emily and Rosemary. And Emily had a great interview. We also, we're always going to be there at iTunes on the trading. Oh, I screwed it up, Matt. I had it.
You were going to go old school, and
simpler, shorter is better.
And then you did just the same thing you did last year when you said the Ravens were going to win twice. You messed it up. Come on. You've been listening to the Trading Justice podcast presented by TackleTrading.com. Get in the game, change your life one trade at a time over there. Tackle Trading. We're out. Now that's how you do a drop, homeboy.
You've been listening to the Trading Justice podcast. If you've enjoyed yourself and think that the conversations and topics we've covered are important, help spread the word. Give us your feedback. 5 stars on iTunes, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Twitter. The Trading Justice podcast is proudly sponsored by TackleTrading.com. Get off the sidelines and get in the game.